Okay, hi guys. Today we're going to talk about how Illuminism is really the product of white European culture and how we really need to take pride in the whole sweep of history that Mike Hockney and the other writers covered in their God series and their entire set of books from all of the authors and all of the different series that they had released. This is a real, true history of white intellectualism, of European white culture. And we have, as white people and European heritage people, meaning white people, every reason to be so proud of that history and what Hockney did for us in chronicling it. It goes back to the white Egyptian people, the pharaohs, and the pyramids, for example, built with these mathematical properties, as part of their architectural design, for example. Amazing. You should look into that if you haven't ever looked into that. Actually, there's a reference called, or a movie out there you can find called, I think you can just find it on the internet, called The Revelation of the Pyramids. It's kind of a funny title, but it gets into the mathematical detail of the pyramids. That's really quite amazing. Like amazing mathematical knowledge went into the design of some of the pyramids. And of course we know that Pythagoras, it's suspected that Pythagoras studied with the Egyptians for some time. And then of course he did what he did in Greece along with all the other Greek white philosophers, European philosophers, and then of course the Dark Ages came in and Christianity came in and put an end to that for some time. But it was reborn, and luckily the Arabs did a tiny little bit, not much. I mean, they did a couple things. They gave us the numerals, which was the Arabic numerals, right? So that was handy. But then of course it came back in Europe during the Enlightenment and Renaissance era, and really amazing things then were redeveloped and continued to happen. So I'm going to talk about this little symbol here that I came up with and what it means. So the culture of white intellectualism is Illuminism, is ontological mathematics. It is the ontological mathematics is the culmination of the European white man's, straight white men basically, if not universally, intellectual tradition. So let's get into that. So the culture of white intellectualism. So in this video, I'm going to discuss the fact that Illuminism and ontological mathematics, I'm going to state it. I'm actually going to get into completely different things just for entertainment. I was told that people sometimes like to just listen to me talk and give my perspective on things. So that's basically what I'm going to do here. In any case, Illuminism, ontological mathematics is the product of the European or white intellectual tradition, history which reaches back officially to Pythagoras and unofficially to the Egyptians, possibly further back than that. The concepts of mathematical ontology are likely the oldest recorded religious tradition in the world. Yeah, believe it or not, the religion based on mathematics is older than anything else, and you see mathematical symbols going way back, and especially when you think about the pyramids. And the sequence of events in the thousands of years development of Illuminism and ontological mathematics, as carefully chronicled and detailed by Mike Hockney and the other Illuminist writers, is a history of white intellectualism. Illuminism is the product of the white European intellectual tradition, just as so many other wonderful things in our modern world are the product of white men conquering knowledge, conquering philosophy, conquering areas of the world, both physically and intellectually, spiritually, philosophically, that no one else had ever conquered before. Standing on the shoulders of giants always, but of course reaching as giants like nobody else ever did and could. So a really, truly wonderful history. Yeah, so here's a nice little symbol that I came up with. Obviously you know where it probably comes from. Well, you might not know actually. This symbol is actually really old. Very, very old. There are rock carvings, I believe, of this symbol going back many, many, many thousands of years. Many thousands of years. Of course, the one you all probably know from the 20th century looks a little bit different than this, and I'll explain why I have made this one in this pattern. Just a little bit of fun, esoterica for fun. I'm not really sure it counts, although Maybe it does. Maybe there are spiritual things that you can do where it's a tiny little nudge that has profound downstream effects over time, right? So here's a little rotating one. I can make a better version of this that doesn't have the frame edge cutting in like that. I just did this quick and easy, quick and dirty with a computer program. I can do it nicer so that it doesn't have that effect. But anyway, there it is, rotating in a clockwise direction. My impression is that when you view it static like this, that it suggests clockwise rotation in this pattern. The other pattern from the National Socialists in Germany obviously was flipped, and in my mind that indicates counterclockwise rotation. And of course it had the red outset too, so I changed it to a blue outset, which I'll explain. And in my mind I look at this, and this indicates clockwise motion because these arms, it's like a spiral, and these arms here are the trailing spiral, and this is the vortex sucking in, just like a spiral, right? And it's going clockwise in this case. So that's how I see it when I look at the static picture, okay? And maybe this is like a sigil, which people don't realize, but it suggests something possibly very profound and subconscious, which triggers something in the subconscious, which is very, very, very deeply embedded and has effects on you that you don't realize. So I'm sorry for the big wall of text here, but I'll just describe what I did. So it's blue on the outset to be like European, uniquely blue eyes. What a wonderful, unique feature of European white people is their beautiful blue eyes of the various shades. I switched the direction to rotate clockwise so that it works with the rotation and orbit of the Earth around the Sun rather than against it, meaning aligned with the Coriolis effect. So the enemy really hates when I explain these changes and how I flipped it like this. The theory is that the counterclockwise rotation one dissipated energy because it represented movement in opposition to the Earth's Coriolis force in the northern hemisphere. And then this caused everyone associated with it to get wiped out. The enemy will immediately start making gross potty jokes when I show them this one. Immediately they start making gross potty jokes because it rotates in the same way that a drain rotates in the northern hemisphere. And so, of course, predictably, they then go to a toilet drain, given their predilections of their, where their mind likes to go at any opportunity with things, right? They love to go to potty things, right? So they will also start ridiculing it for me referencing the Coriolis effect, which is, of course, a consequence of a sphere's rotation. And so that means that they're ridiculing spherical Earth because, of course, they prefer flat Earth theory, like in their stupid, silly little book and in their stupid little modern flat Earth climate science, right? So it's very telling that I just show them this and then they come up with that. They just start saying, oh, it's like a toilet drain, So it's not about draining. Yeah, and then also with the Coriolis effect. So it's not about draining. It is about according to and being bolstered by the Coriolis force due to the planet Earth's rotation. That drains also drain this way in the northern hemisphere is a demonstration of the preferred direction of energy rotation. It's not about being a metaphor for draining, but about being a symbol which accords with the rotational energy preference in the northern hemisphere. It was the counterclockwise version which drained energy and dissipated energy because it rotated oppositely to the Coriolis force in the northern hemisphere. Everyone associated with the other version got wiped out and are still undergoing genocide and may very well yet be genocided completely, if not entirely, is well on the way. They were massively raped and massively genocided. They were wiped out. It was a very, very horrific outcome what happened to those poor people. That used the one turning the other way. So maybe there's a connection. Maybe, right? It's all pretty esoteric. And, you can write that off, especially if you're a materialist. How could it possibly make a difference? However, if you have studied magic, if you studied the subconscious, you know that sigils can have a huge subconscious effect that you have no idea, and it can trigger very, very deep layers of our mental subconscious reality, which, it's that little touch which sets off a very, very, very big downstream, and either for good or for bad, obviously in the 20th century, something very bad happened there. And so possibly it's related to the sigil that they were given and using. So this symbol in general, so here's a big thing. It also represents light. I mean, what if light has a chirality, right? Or DNA, what about the chirality of DNA? What if it connects to that, right? So if you're looking at a symbol which is opposite to the normal chirality or polarization, whatever you want to call it, of light, or the normal chirality of DNA, again, maybe you're looking at something which is like opposite life, opposite energy, opposite Earth's preference, opposite, and it's just like you're constantly putting that into your subconscious. I mean, that's how magic works, right? That's how these subconscious elements work. So, I mean, I would not want to use that one just because of the history of what did happen. It's possible if you want to believe in this sort of metaphysical analysis or esoteric analysis based on sigils, well, the empirical evidence shows that the other one frickin' destroys whoever's associated with it and wipes them out and gets them genocided, right? Not very good. So maybe a simple process of flipping it turns it good. And Hockney has actually written about this, about how there's I think he calls it a solar version and a lunar version. So of course that's referencing something which I have not, in all of my extensive reading, come across how to exactly interpret that. Obviously Hockney might know or must know. People that, are into magic or the occult probably do know exactly what that means, or into astrology perhaps. And, again, this might sound woo-woo if you're a materialist. You might think, what the heck is Joe talking about? The guy's out to lunch. Well, we live in a mental reality if you're an Illuminist and ontological mathematician, and you know that there can be huge effects out there that we just don't quite understand. Okay, anyway, so the symbol represents a light wave or photon. This symbol is the most basic way to represent the most essential elements of a light wave, which is an electric and a magnetic wave chasing each other around a circle with 90 degrees separation between the electric and magnetic components. This is how you would draw a photon. Like if you just had the static version carved into a rock, that's how you would draw a photon. That's what a light wave would look like if you could actually look at its components. Of course you can't. I mean, you just see light. You can't actually see the components of the light. You see the effect of the light. But internally, that kind of shows what the components of the light wave is. An electric field and a magnetic field, and they're kind of chasing each other around in a circle. I mean, it's a totally plausible representation of a photon. The cyan outset can also represent higher frequency. I mean, that's a big New Age thing, vibrate at higher frequency. I mean, why not, right? But I also just did it because of the blue color, and it's sort of representing European blue eyes, which are just so unique and so beautiful. The thin black circle, now we can do something really interesting. What does the thin black line, a thin black circle represent? Well, that represents a Venn diagram. And what is the Venn diagram of? Well, this is a general black circle, so what is it going to be at its most general level? The most general level is existence. So it's a Venn diagram containing the most general concept, which is the concept of existence. Okay, so the thin black circle around the photon represents a Venn diagram. The Venn's diagram content is, of course, the photon, right? What's inside the Venn diagram? A photon. The Venn diagram itself, the thin circle, is for existence. All that exists. The entirety of existence. Existence as its most bare and primary concept. All which can possibly exist, and what exists is light. That's why the photon is inside the Venn diagram of existence. What exists is light. That is, the photon is the entirety of what the Venn diagram of existence is required to capture. Existence is made of light. Although we know the phrase "let there be light" from a well-known source, this idea is in fact prehistoric, and Plato, for example, attempted to explain it in his allegory, explaining through a very general metaphor that the true and fundamental reality is the light, right? In Plato's allegory of the cave, right? So what to do with the symbol? Meditate on the static symbol, directed to bring you blessings and restore what was lost in your life or in history. Have it rotating over you and atop of you at all times and around you, with you at the center. Imagine it aligning your energy, healing your DNA, improving your pedigree, cleans the chaos from your mind, smooths you out, and aligns your soul with the highest of becoming, and it makes you completely impervious and indestructible to the enemy. The enemy cannot use this and cannot touch it because they cannot match the frequency of the outset color. Only white people can do that. And so you don't need to worry about it being used against you or by the enemy. This is a positive and good symbol. It cannot be used for evil. This will only bring goodness, which also means it's very, very, very bad for the parasites and very, very, very good for you if you're a white European. This is your holy, sacred, indestructible, immortal, eternal, infinite birthright by way of the pedigree of your heritage as a European white person. It puts the entirety of existence itself, because that is all that existence is light, in your mind. So when you look at that static symbol, you are capturing the entirety of existence in your mind when you imagine that that Venn diagram is the entirety of existence, and it is holding light, which is everything, and that's all that is. You are literally putting all of existence, not just this universe, everything, all possible universes, all possible history into your mind. So have fun with what you can do with that. But you're not going to be able to use it for bad, only for good things, which would be bad for bad people, for sure. So the enemy in their lives, one thing about the enemy that I realized lately was a really disturbing thing, and that is that they believe in it so deeply and fanatically because they know that it's a lie. They believe in it, and it even forms their modern religion. It's truly their modern religion because they know that it is a lie. A parasite has to front with a lie. It is 100% dependent for its existence upon lies. Therefore, the successful lie is the parasite's greatest treasure. A parasite loves a successful lie, and especially if it's so big and they get a lot for it, it becomes its object of worship, and it really truly is their modern religion. A parasite must lie to survive. It must pretend that it has a value, a use, a reason for its existence, and it must have you believe that pretense. It really wants you to believe that pretense. That's why it makes laws. It says you're not allowed to not believe this, right? Because that's its religion, and that's how it survives, because it's a lie, right? Without you believing its lying pretenses, it cannot survive. Therefore, the parasite believes most deeply and most fanatically that which is the greatest and most successful lie. So let's just have a little example of parasitical behavior here. Let's just watch this. It's just a 2-minute video. I mean, isn't this strange behavior? Like, who does this? Like, could you imagine you doing that to other people? Wouldn't that be weird? Like, it would just be weird if you were this duplicitous, wouldn't it be? It's just strange. I've never, ever imagined being duplicitous like this against another person or another group of people. It's just so odd. Like, who does this? Like, it stands out as being uniquely odd. Like, it kind of indicates that you might be in a war that you don't realize exists. You know? Kind of like I said in my layman's guidebook, right? At the end, I'm like, it kind of seems like we're in a war because behavior like this isn't normal. But you would expect behavior like this if you were in a war that you didn't know about. It's just weird. It's odd behavior. And it's so consistent. Next one, nope. I mean, just, you know, that whole diversity trope. It's so annoying, God, right? Oh, we need whatever for diversity. I mean, okay, you want to talk about diversity, and they like to talk about people of color. I mean, they're bringing back the whole. I thought we were done with people of color, but now they want to bring it back. Okay, fine, let's talk about color. Who has color? I mean, pretty much everywhere around the world, you find black hair, brown eyes. In Europe, you have everything, not only black and brown, but also all the other ones. So it's just so annoying and so stupid. Everything they say is stupid. Everything they say is backwards and inverted to the truth, right? That's just how it works. Everything that they say is a lie. Everything they say is a lie. So when they say that white people need diversity, it's a lie, because white people are already diverse and have all of the diversity of all the colors that you could imagine. It's just so stupid it's just like them and their stupid flat earth climate science that they want to use to get us to destroy the planet. It's just so ridiculous. Slave trade, for example, right? No one ever talks about this. Millions and millions of white people, especially white women, captured by the Africans and the Arabs in the Barbary slave trade and other slave trades, right? These paintings exist for a reason. Oh, and I'm not even going to show the paintings about the child sacrifice. Why do those paintings exist, right? Why do the paintings of ritual child sacrifice with these people drinking the blood of children? Why would paintings like that exist? Anyway, so just to make the point, these paintings exist because this went on for many, many hundreds of years, if not thousands of years, by Arab Africans on white people raiding European villages and things. And I mean, this just makes a point, right? This is kind of the predicament we're in. No one is going to honor us for losing gracefully, right? No one will mourn the crimes that have been and are being committed against us, right? For us, it is conquer or die. That's the situation we're in. Nobody else wants us to survive. No one else wants us to live. We've bent over backwards trying to help other people survive and live, but it's not benefiting us anymore, is it? If it ever did. I mean, you just put nice music and a pretty white woman with anything, and it becomes wonderful, right? I mean, everyone likes Bittersweet Symphony. It's just nice. I mean, you could start that off and do a lot with that. I'll show you some really cool ones in a second here, but that's just real nice. This is kind of cool. That's just cool. Now, notice here how somebody has clued in that the rotation should be clockwise, but they didn't flip it, right? Because to me, that's like a backwards spiral. That's not the natural way, but whoever created this has clued in that you're supposed to have a clockwise spiral, right? So that idea is percolating out there. Anyway, you just put nice music with a white woman and you've got perfection, right? It's as simple as that. How wonderful. Now you could make a really cool video based off that intro. And I'll have a couple of videos in a second. Now look at this one. Everyone knows what this is from, probably. This happened a few weeks ago, right? This was one of the greatest meme events in the last 10 years, probably. So many wonderful memes came out of this. So anyway, that's cool. AI art. I like that. Like the smirk on her face. Of course, this was just... It's just brilliant. Just like sticking that hat on top of her head is hilarious. And look at her. Is she not just a wonderful little angel? Look at her. What a beautiful, powerful woman. Man, that's great, right? And look at here. They changed her kid to the king with a hat on. That is so freaking funny. Look, they even got the picture when his eyes are so focused like that right at that moment from his original video, looking at it and made it so he's like looking at his mummy so proud. Brilliant. People are so freaking brilliant. And now this one just killed me. This one was so funny. Watch this. That was so unexpected when I watched that the first time. That was brilliant how he has this breastplate prize or whatever it is. Like as if he's awarding it to her. That is so funny. I died from that video, like died laughing. It was just so funny, so good. Anyway, man, what a great woman. What a cool person. She's really awesome. Anyway, let's go on. There we are. Oh yeah. Oh wow. Slow it down. I mean, just a reference to one of the many cool things we've done, right? Europeans sailing around the world, discovering the whole planet, right? Charting the whole planet. What an amazing thing that they did, right? That our people did. Sailing around the whole planet in wooden sail ships. Like, think of that. That's insane. And everywhere we went that was sufficiently distant from having had contact with white European culture. Everywhere else we went was in the Stone Age. People in the Stone Age. Their maximum level of technology was sticks and stones, and many of them didn't even have wheels or chairs. We were basically 10,000 years ahead of much of the rest of the world. Just what amazing men. Like, what amazing men who just went and did things like this. Amazing. A couple nice memes. I want my babies to look like me. High IQ white women. Yeah, for sure, right? I mean, remember, we weren't even allowed to say it's okay to be white. Remember, you couldn't even have a printout with paper saying it's okay to be white without complete conniption fits, without police being called, without threats of jail time and imprisonment and fines and everything just for a piece of paper. Now, could you imagine if, it's always like, could you imagine if they do it, they get away with it because they have the power, right? So, can you imagine? We don't have to imagine, it's what happens. A person would look at this, your avid normie would look at this and say, that's so evil, you want your babies to look like you? Well, what if you said to a black person, you're not allowed to have babies that look like you? You have to have white babies. What if you said to an Arab, you're not allowed to have babies that look like you? You have to have red-headed, freckled babies. What if you said it was evil for them? Like, would you say that about any other people? Like, would you tell a Chinese person that they're evil for wanting children who look like you would never get away with that if you said that to anyone else. You would never do it, would you? Right? You're only racist against white people because that's the safe type racism. You actually want to be racist. And for you, it's just the only people that it's safe to be racist against are white people because, they won't hurt you for it because they're just like, well, that's a stupid idea, and they walk away, right? But you would never actually go be racist to a black person or a Chinese person, would you, right? For people who are offended by this. The most beautiful girls, the most handsome men, the cutest couples. Absolutely. Gosh, do white people ever make beautiful people? I really love this, came across this. So this is apparently a real, or I'm not sure if it's a real, but it's a replica of what was found and dated to around 9,000 years before present. So my gosh, that is so old. And it was the dress of a female shaman, what'd you call that, medicine lady maybe, or whatever, in Germany 9,000 years ago. Amazing, right? Could you imagine, like, man, is there any girls out there that, would think it's cool to dress like this? Like, just to be cool, and like go for a walk in the forest and like talk with the bugs and the butterflies and the animals and just, would that, any girls out there? Because I want to meet you. It reminds me of one thing, like a lot of people think that in my Planet Wars book that I made up that channeling information session. And then in my autobiography, the discussion with the butterfly, I didn't make that up. Here, I'll discuss that in a second. This one, pagans are evil, ugly, horrible people who offend God. Yeah, right, by the goddamn Christians. I shouldn't even use that stupid word. That's their word. And they're saying goddamn the stupid Christians, right? Meanwhile, this is just what pagans want to do, commune with nature. If you're a woman that wants to dress up like this and I'll dress up the male equivalent and go commune in nature. It's so stupid. But man, if you're that type of woman, that is just like the most awesome thing. The most awesome. It's just cool. It's just natural and so far away from the stupid Christians. God. Anyway, it came to my attention that a lot of people thought, or some people thought, that what I wrote in my Planet Wars book about the channeling session was just made up as a sort of tool to tell a story or to make the point, you know? No, my autobiography isn't published online anymore. I mean, I can send it to whoever wants it. But in that autobiography, I also wrote about an experience I had speaking with a butterfly. So I'll relate that here. There's an excerpt from my autobiography. And I just want to make the point that when you have that communication, that type of communication, the reason why, or how you know that it's genuine is because you get information that was not in your head before. And that's what this example is that I'll read to you here. In my Planet Wars book, I learned information in that channeling session that was explained everything that I didn't yet understand, and it was ideas that I had never ever had or had considered before, right? That's how you could tell you're really speaking with a discarnated source of information, a spiritual contact of sorts. So here, I'll just read this because this is such a sweet story, and I'll try not to pull a stupid Jordan Peterson and start bawling. But it's just, this really touches my heart. It's a really sweet story. Okay, I remember one particularly great season at a time. That means when my marriage started going, but the bugs start losing them and the trees begin to tinge yellow extremities. In August in Calgary, we had a moment white butterfly fly erratically in zigzags. All summer, I had been noticing either the same such butterfly or the same species, and each time I witnessed its crazy manner of flight. I remarked inside myself, utilized chaos in poor flight characteristics to evade predators. In this case, presumably the butterfly used it to evade bats and birds or something. Flight characteristics which evolution ended up not needing to develop fully as a convenient means of evasion. Well, after I had been observing it and thinking this same line, which I found quite odd, and I felt a sudden desire to lean down to it, expectation of it jumping into my hands, and I stood up and I called over to Pythagorus closely with me, which she did. When she arrived shortly, I suddenly had a pleasant emotion flash of words began appearing in my mind, which I felt I should narrate. To Piper. I said to Piper, "Oh my goodness, it's saying something to me." That's my daughter. "It's speaking to me. It's talking to me. Listen." And it said. And this was like going back to it being real, because this was not an idea which was in my head. I thought that this butterfly just was a bad flyer, but that was convenient because it meant that birds and bats couldn't catch it very easily, and evolution was just like, well, I'm not going to bother learning how to fly very well. I'm just going to fly all over like crazy and be a bad flyer, and conveniently that, helps me avoid getting caught in the air by bats and birds. That's how I thought it worked, right? So this idea was a completely original idea, which I hadn't considered before. So what did this butterfly tell me? So it said, "I do not fly poorly. I do not have poor flight characteristics. I, in fact, plan every single movement, every single zig, every single zag, every single direction is entirely purposefully controlled by me. I'm the most perfect and agile flyer there is around. I know exactly what I am doing. If I flew so poorly as you think, I would be able to land on the leaves where I wanted and would crash into things and wreck my wings and kill myself." So I said to Piper, "Oh, so I was wrong about the reason why it flies the way that it does. It does that on purpose." And I looked closely at it, and it rested there calmly, unmoving, and I inspected it and was amazed at the intricacy of its incredibly delicate design, making the point that something so fragile could never suffer inaccurate and haphazard flight. I noticed the tiny little pods of microscopic structure on the ends of its antennae, which must serve some electromagnetic or electrochemical function, I would guess. And I noticed the tattered nature of its wings and that it looked old and well-lived. So I said to it, I hope you had a wonderful summer, that you got to make lots of little babies, and buy lots of your favorite food, which it must have in my garden, because I had lots of flowers in my garden that year. I don't know what it ate, actually. You're so beautiful. And then it flew off. And, well, I didn't need the rest here, but it just connected to a lot of... this idea of second mind. There's a mind which animates all of existence, and it does amazing things, like it helps us move our arm, it transforms flowers into apples, and it helps, and it animates these insects to fly chaotically on purpose, right? With very, very, very extreme precision, extremely precise chaos. What a wonderful paradoxical concept. That's a beautiful concept. Incredibly precise chaos in flight, right? Precise chaos. Anyway, whatever. It was a very nice moment. And I had lots of other moments that year. I was doing lots of grounding, walking around bare feet. I was always just walking around bare feet outside that year. A lot on the grass. I think I was even doing at nighttime when no one could see me. I was laying out on the lawn naked. Just to fully ground, and just I was really, really grateful year. I also had other experiences, just quote unquote talking with Rabbit, communications in the middle of the night about what to do, and then of course the whole Planet Wars book and what I wrote about in there with the help of someone else. Anyway, really good times. So anyway, let's just watch a few more videos. I think this one's kind of cool. It's got a good tune, but it's too sexualized. But it's fun. Anyway, it would be fun to make videos like this more for the ontological mathematics, but how would you make that cool? Showing equations and stuff, that's not going to be, put music with equations, like that's not going to be that fun. This is just a cool way to show the coolness of European culture. This one's really nice. We are a beautiful people. We are a beautiful people, and we have so much to be proud of. Like, we are truly as a people, like, talk about world historic. There are world historic figures, right? Like Leibniz, the philosophers, white inventors, white scientists, philosophers, musicians, world historic people. But just as a race itself, the white people have defined world history. They are world historic. And we are a wonderful and beautiful people. A gorgeous and wonderful people who have conquered everything in our way, right? Like, conquered philosophy, conquered the theory of everything, right? That's what Illuminism is about, ontological mathematics. We conquered the theory of everything. A lot of people don't know about it. On the one hand, it's maybe a bit too complex, cerebral, and philosophical. On the other hand, it's actually really easy to understand. It's actually almost trivial once you understand it, the theory of everything, how to understand why something exists rather than nothing, and how to explain the entirety of existence in a completely logical, rational way that completely solves what scientists are stuck in with quantum indeterminacy and their quantum woo-woo and relativity theory and all that. We've solved all that. Just almost nobody knows about it because it's somewhat suppressed. But anyway, conquered, physically conquered, intellectually conquered, spiritually conquered, so many things. We are a beautiful and wonderful people. a beautiful and wonderful people, and we need to continue existing and surviving. And that survival is under threat right now. Under threat because this is what they want to do. Our enemy wants to do to the entire planet. If you read my book, Planet Wars, it was explained to us, that they want to leave the entire surface of our planet as barren and desolate and lifeless as the surface of the moon. They want Earth's surface to look like the surface of the moon, to have no atmosphere, to be completely exposed to space, and to have nothing living on its surface at all. That's what they want to do. What they've done here, they want to do, and they're planning to do to the entire planet. So, it fits, right? Couple more memes, right? So of course you have the white pagans and the white Christians. I mean, the white Christians are still a bit of a problem because at least half of them, if not most of them, are going to be traitors, or just traitors in waiting, fifth columnists. They're just waiting to backstab you again, right? I'm fully with the white pagans. Like, you don't have the conflict with white paganism. You just don't have the conflict, with the Greek gods, for example. There's just no conflict in what you're supposed to do to survive. Of course, you're supposed to be strong. Of course, you're supposed to kill your enemy. Of course, you're supposed to dominate, be dominant, and survive, right? There's no, guilt complex, right? With the psychologically healthy Greek pantheon, for example, or any of the old pagan beliefs, right? About how to live. And yeah, I mean, they are using violence on us, right? They're using violence. They use violence all the time on us, right? But we're told that we're not allowed to use violence, right? And so, I mean, yeah, that whole sigil thing, I mean, maybe that is a way to not use violence, to use that spiritual tweak that can simply raise you above the methods of the enemy. However, the enemy is still, using violence, and violence does work, and history shows that violence works, and violence is a wonderful solution. A great way to make a bad person stop doing bad things is to, unalive them, right? To use violence. Violence is a wonderful solution. The history of evolution on the planet Earth demonstrates that violence is how things change, and how things change generally for the better, especially if you're an evolutionist. What caused the survival, what caused the development of genetics, what caused the development? It was violence. Violence through the test of strength, right? Look at us now. We are extremely weak, and, white people are being genocided the world over, right? All white countries are under severe extreme attack by people who don't share, white values, European values, and European culture. And it's like a parasitical infestation, and we are unable to use violence against it. If you could use violence to protect yourself against it, it would be solved quickly. We could quickly do that. It's just the deck has been so stacked against us now, and we just collectively are in a bit of a tough spot right now. In any case, again, just referencing this again, no one will honor us for losing gracefully, right? No one mourns the great crimes committed against us. Why would they, right? Why would they mourn for us? They're getting what they can get, and it's not about hating them. It's not about, oh, they're so mean to it. They're just doing what they need to do to survive, right? That's what we need to do too. We need to do what we need to do to survive, right? It's as simple as that. You can't blame them for what they're doing. I mean, in that sense, right? They're doing what's most convenient for them to survive, right? And especially with the parasitical psychology mentality, we've opened ourselves up to it, although not purposefully. Obviously, it's the bad enemy people who've, infiltrated our government and finances and all that. They're the ones who have made it, basically opening the gates of Toledo in, not just the physical sense, but in so many different sort of metaphorical aspects, opening the gates of Toledo to our enemies to destroy us, right? And so that's what we're facing. And we're going to have to somehow figure out how to fight back if we can't tweak this system in some sort of spiritual sense where it's like, oh, you're going to raise to the fifth dimension and leave all this behind. I mean, that's pretty wishful thinking. If that doesn't happen, we are going to be killed violently. And the only solution at the last won't be, is the transition to 5D coming out? No, it's going to be, we better use violence to survive. So that's what we're facing. Okay. So if you want to support this work, here's a couple of links. Of course, you can just contact me if you want. My email is joepostma, like that, right there, at live.ca, just to make sure that I'm joepostma at live.ca, just to make sure that my Bitcoin or whatever Ethereum is active. I forget which wallets these are on, but I still must have them somewhere. Yeah, and we can do a lot. I mean, we should really focus on once I make enough money and get the institute set up, yeah, it'd be great to hire people to be historians, to chronicle. I mean, kids in school are deprived of knowledge of history, of the wonderful accomplishments of Europe, of what Europe has accomplished. People just don't have any idea of what white people, what European people actually accomplished throughout history, the wonderful, wonderful things. So that'd be one of the first things to do, is I will hire a historian to chronicle all the wonderful things. It'll be a huge volume. It'll be like an encyclopedia, right? It'll be a huge volume, because every single day of the year, there's probably at least, a few dozen things in history that a white person invented or discovered or did something cool or achieved something or broke some record or something, right? So that'd be great to have a real historian that really cares about history, just to chronicle as far back as we can, our European history. And especially, Hockney did that basically already intellectually on the intellectual front, right? On the development, on the intellectual tradition of Europe, right? The European intellectual tradition, and how that basically went from the Egyptians and pre-Egyptians and this quiet, but you can detect it out there, religion of mathematical ontology, that mathematics, also meaning light, being synonymous with light, is, this religion that's out there, right? In a sort of background sort of sense. But then, Mike Hockney really just started the ancient Greeks, really, and just drew that out, that whole historical sequence. And that could be done. Of course, Mike Hockney had his style of writing, with a lot of fun stuff, like freaking out and just side tangents and stuff like that. It would be really nice to, and that's a fun way to read for sure. It made it entertaining, and so that was good. Anyway, there's so much work to do and so many fun things to do that way. And of course, here's some of my books, or all of my books, not some of them, all of them. This book, Illuminism, I'm going to do a second edition of that and fill it out a bit more, or quite a bit more, with new things that I've discovered about the mathematical properties of the soul, which we can explain now, which describes our soul's evolution and what it's doing and how it just works, right? This one I could probably do a second edition as well at some point, but this would be the first one that I want to do a second edition on Illuminism. I could really fill that out and make it a bit meatier and a bit more entertaining and a bit more satisfying, and just draw together some of the leaps, some of the transitions between, just in a logical sequence. Anyway, don't need to get into it. So I think that's all. So anyway, good stuff, guys. So I hope that you're all doing well, and I hope you enjoyed that. And I'll just have to talk to you later. So everybody take care. Bye.